Sunday.
Chris, good morning. Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Same to you. What is the latest on talks to end the shutdown, and with Congress now out at least until December 27th, how long is this going to go on?
This is what Washington looks like. I saw the intro and said it was chaos in Washington. This is what Washington looks like when you have a president who refuses to sort of go along to get along. You're seeing a fight over border security, just like we had a fight over taxes, a fight over deregulation, a fight over trade, a fight over Syria. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So this is what it looks like. I met yesterday with the Vice President and Mr. Schumer. We met throughout the day, as your story indicated there, with some Republican members to talk about where we were in the discussions. We had given an offer, a counter offer to Mr. Schumer late yesterday afternoon, and immediately I think thereafter the Senate went into recess until at least Thursday. That doesn't mean it will be before Thursday till we hear something back, but I don't think things are going to move very quickly here for the next couple of days.
So are we talking a week? Are we talking until the new Congress comes in on January 3rd?
Yeah, a couple of different things. It's Sunday right now, and government is shut down mostly on a Sunday anyway. Government's shut down tomorrow anyway because it's a federal holiday. Then Tuesday is Christmas, again, another federal holiday. So Wednesday is really the first day that this kicks in. The paychecks, importantly, will go out on the 28th. I want everybody to understand no one is working without getting paid. Paychecks go out on the 28th. The next pay period that is impacted is January 11th. I think that is, it's very possible that the shutdown will go beyond the 28th and into the new Congress.
Democrats are talking about $1.3 billion for border security, but none of it for the wall. Here is Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer on this subject.
If you want to open the government, you must abandon the wall. Plain and simple.
First of all, what's going on the Democratic side, best you can see?
A couple of different things, and that's an important line because I think it's important that everyone understands the language that everyone is using. The president tweeted out a picture yesterday of a steel fence, the steel slatted fence with the pointed top and so forth. That's what we want to build. In the Democrats' mind, that is not a wall. So they have offered us $1.3 billion to build the barrier that we want, but then they go on TV and say there's no money for a wall. Okay. We've already told the Democrats we want to build what the president tweeted out. It doesn't have to be a 30-foot high concrete.
So you think that they would approve $1.3 billion to build the steel picket fence?
Exactly. Well, the steel barriers that the president tweeted out yesterday. Here's the problem, of course, is that as recently as 2 weeks ago, they had offered us $1.6 billion for that same thing. So they're moving in the wrong direction. I think there's a really good question here as to whether or not this deal can be cut before the new Congress comes in. I think there's an implication here for Nancy Pelosi's election for the speakership. I think she's now in that unfortunate position of being beholden to her left wing to where she cannot be seen as agreeing with the president on anything until after she's speaker. If that's the case, again, I think there's a chance we go into the next Congress.
So you're suggesting, or maybe you're outright saying, that Nancy Pelosi, in her effort to ensure that she's the speaker, may hold this up until she's elected speaker.
I shouldn't say that's a dynamic. Certainly, we've been talking to Mr. Schumer, the leader of the Democrats in the Senate. The bill right now is in the Senate. The ball is in the Senate's court. Of course, keep in mind, any bill that comes out of the Senate on this topic will have to have 60 votes, so they'll have to have Democrat support. But I certainly think that the speaker's dynamic is in play here.
Well, all right. Let's look at it from your side. The president, $5 billion. What's his bottom line? Does it have to be $5 billion? There was talk from some Republicans who had lunch with the president yesterday. He might accept $2.3 billion. Yeah.
Again, I'm not going to tell you what our bottom line is, and I know you don't expect me to do that. But
yeah, actually, I'd like it.
I will tell you this. They are at 1.3 yesterday. We were at $5 billion a couple of days ago, and the counter offer that we gave them yesterday was between those two numbers.
But you 2.3.
We moved off of the 5. We hope they move up from their 1.3.
All right. President Trump has been all over the place on this whole issue of the shutdown. Here's where he was 2 weeks ago and where he was on Friday. Take a look.
I am proud to shut down the government for border security, Chuck. So I will take the mantle. I will be the one to shut it down. I'm not going to blame you for it. It's up to the Democrats. So it's really the Democrat shutdown.
So if the president is, quote, proud to shut down the government and is ready to take the mantle, why is he suddenly calling it the Democrat shutdown?
First of all, he is proud to be having the fight. Let's make that very, very clear. He's proud to sort of point out that Chuck Schumer has actually voted for the exact
He said he's proud to shut down the government.
And I'll get to that in a second. But see, he's proud to have this fight. Okay. As to where we are in the back and forth, again, the ball right now is in their corner. We made them an offer yesterday afternoon. So the Senate Democrats have the ability right now to open the government and agree to the deal. That's where the back and forth is. So
you don't see him flipping when he says, I'm proud to shut down the government, and now he's...
They come back to us with something, the ball's in our court, it's a different dynamic. But right now, the Democrats, the ball is in their court as to what they come back with.
You have your own record when it comes to immigration and a border wall. Mm-hmm. I know you knew I was going to ask you this. Here's what you said as a congressman in 2015.
Sure.
The fence doesn't solve the problem. Is it necessary to have one? Sure. Would it help? Sure. But to just say build the darn fence and have that be the end of an immigration discussion is absurd and almost childish for someone running for president to take that simplistic a view.
If building a wall is childish and simplistic as a solution for the immigration problem, why is it worth shutting down the government?
It has to be part of a comprehensive...
but it isn't.
A border wall absolutely is part of border security.
That's, you're not saying it's part of it. You're not saying it's part of a comprehensive immigration plan.
I think in the quote you just read...
No, that's what you said, but that's not
necessary.
But that's not what the president has said.
A border wall is necessary. We've known this since Reagan. Reagan agreed to amnesty in exchange for border security. He gave away the amnesty, never got the border security. Everyone's aware of that. We don't want to make the same mistake. Okay? A border wall is absolutely necessary, which is why we're having the battle. So, too, by the way, are changing our policies on immigration. I think one of the biggest stories that didn't get reported this week was the agreement that we reached with Mexico to have Mexico agree to keep people seeking asylum in the United States in Mexico. So they come to the border right now, or at least before this week, they were allowed to stay in this country pending their decision. Now Mexico will keep them in Mexico. That's going to have a tremendous deterrent effect on people coming to the border.
Right.
We need a comprehensive solution to border security, and a border barrier, steel slat fence, has to be part of that.
One of the reasons that I think people here in Washington are so rattled this week is because the shutdown comes exactly the same time as the president made a dramatic decision on pulling troops out of Syria and drawing down troops in Afghanistan, which led to the resignation of Defense Secretary James Mattis. I want to put up the resignation letter from Mattis, in which he writes this: "My views on treating allies with respect and also being clear-eyed about both malign actors and strategic competitors are strongly held and informed by over 4 decades of immersion in these issues." So Secretary Mattis is saying that he quit because his views on treating allies with respect and being clear-eyed about our enemies do not align with President Trump.
I don't think it was a dramatic decision. Keep in mind, this has been something that the president has been working on since he got to office.
Wait 1 second. It's the first time a defense secretary has ever resigned over policy in the history of the country.
I don't believe that to be the case. I think Chuck Hagel resigned for the same reasons.
I don't believe that he did resign over a matter of policy.
I thought it was a policy over ISIS, as a matter of fact. But again, it leaked out this week. In fact, it leaked out apparently from the Defense Department. This is not something that was done sort of at the drop of a hat. The president's been working on this for 2 years. So it's unfortunate that it came out the way that it did, but this was not a snap decision. And it's not a surprise to anybody because it's exactly what the president said he was going to do. Now, as to Mr. Mattis's resignation, if a cabinet secretary simply has such a misalignment with the president's priorities that he cannot serve him, that is the right reason to leave. You've asked me...
I completely agree with you, but the point is he's saying the reason he left is because he believes that allies should be treated with respect and we ought to be clear-eyed about our enemies, and he clearly doesn't think that President Trump feels the same way.
I don't read a letter that way. Look, let's be honest with each other. I think the relationship between these two men had been fraying. I think the president no longer relied on Mattis to be able to deliver the president's vision. The president has to know, I don't have to agree with the president on everything he asks me to do. In fact, we're not going to. I think he hires people who disagree with him because he likes that different input. Okay? But if I'm physically incapable, completely incapable of doing what he wants me to do just because I don't believe it, I cannot serve him well, and I need to leave, and I think that's what happened.
It's a very honorable thing. But let's look, because it wasn't just Mattis. I want to put up the U.S. envoy to the coalition to fight ISIS and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, who both in recent days had expressed what they thought about U.S. troops in Syria. Here they are.
Even as the end of the physical caliphate is clearly now coming into sight, the end of ISIS will be a much more long-term initiative.
We still have a long way to go, and so I'd be reluctant to affix a time.
They both said that this month, and we learned yesterday that the envoy, Brett McGurk, has just quit because he also disagrees so strongly with the president's policies. A couple of questions. One, the president says in a tweet he didn't know Brett McGurk. How is it possible that the president doesn't know the envoy who has been representing the U.S. to the coalition for the last 2 years?
Well, I think that's easy because the president's dealing with the Secretary of State, the Secretary of Defense. I mean, despite what people think, the White House is not Grand Central Station. Not anybody in the administration gets in to see the president. So the president gets briefed by General Dunford.
Okay, and then here's the question: if he went against the recommendations of Mattis, McGurk, Dunford, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, apparently Pompeo and Bolton, who is he listening to?
The president listens to a bunch of different people, okay, including the people who...
But that's his national security team.
Wait a second, including the people who live here and the ordinary Americans, the people he promised when he ran for office that he was going to leave. We recognize the fact that this is unpopular within the Beltway. We recognize this fact it's unpopular within the Defense Department. It's very popular with ordinary American people. The people who ran when Donald Trump ran...
With all due respect to democracy, and I agree with you about that, do they really know what the stakes are of pulling U.S. troops out and leaving the Syrian Defense Force to the Turkish slaughter, and what the impact is going to be on Iran? I mean, really, we're going to make this a plebiscite?
Ordinary Americans have no idea about those things. They elect the president so that he does, and he has the complete understanding of what you've just laid out, and the decision is his. We serve the president. I am not the president of the United States. Jim Mattis is not the president of the United States, and our job is to get him the information from all sides, and believe me, he sees information from all sides. You can imagine on spending what he sees from me, and he makes the final decision. The fact that his decision is not popular with some people is more their problem than his.
I got one more question, and I got a minute for it. The stock markets have just had their worst week since the Great Recession in 2008. At least 2 top national security officials resigned this week, and there's talk about more resignations from the Pentagon. Congressional Republicans are now breaking with the president, whether it's on Syria or Saudi Arabia, or even some of them about how the shutdown happened. Does the president understand that there is growing concern in Washington, even among some people in his own party, that his presidency is in crisis?
No, I don't think there's concern the presidency is in crisis. I thought you were going to ask me if these things were unpopular, people were worried about them. This, as I said at the outset, this is what having a president who is non-traditional, who's a different kind of president, looks like. He's not going to be an ordinary president, and that's not what people wanted when they elected him. As to the things you just mentioned, the fundamentals of the economy are still great. Yes, the stock market is down. We both know it goes up and down. Unemployment is still at historic lows. Capital investment is still high. Business confidence is high. GDP is still solid, so the fundamentals are still good. Is it going to be a rocky road with a president who's willing to mix things up to change Washington to benefit folks back home? Yes.
Mick, thank you. Thank you for your time, especially this holiday weekend. I hope you and your family get at least a little time to celebrate Christmas. And congratulations on your new job as Chief of Staff. I hope you will be more willing to come on and talk to us than your immediate predecessor was.
Merry Christmas to you. Thanks.
Merry Christmas to you.
Moving a extremely large U.S. force back in because Iran is now setting up shop on Israel's back door. It'll happen.
And this, Lindsey Graham kind of said the same thing yesterday. And again, Lindsey Graham's a big Trump ally on certainly recently. There is the reporting, however, is that Trump, and this is Trump wanted this, right, for a long time. He wanted to pull the troops out. And I think this has happened with other issues as well. Tariffs are another example. He had advisors around him saying this would not be a good thing for the economy. I mean, I think that they've shown to be right so far. But they kept saying no, and eventually got to the point where I said I wanted it. You're not even trying to do what I'm saying. Get out. And that seems what's happened here with Syria potentially. However, the added part of this is reportedly he was on a call with Erdogan from Turkey, and Erdogan said basically, look, why are you? These guys are terrorists. The Kurds are terrorists. You're siding with them over your NATO ally. Why are you doing that? These people are terrorists. They're separatists, and we should be able to go in there and get them. And why are you siding with them instead of us? And he won Trump over with, of course, the baseline of he wanted to pull the troops out anyway. And I don't know. Erdogan does not seem like a positive actor to me, and siding with his analysis of that situation seems like a terrible idea.
And they're not separatists. This is a man-made border that we imposed on the region to keep everybody fighting with each other. I can't say we did, but the British did, to keep everybody at odds with each other. It's why strong men work in the Middle East, because they have to defend their tribe. This is a tribal thing. This is not like the West. This is a tribal thing. And you're going to wipe out that entire tribe. It will be genocide. And then the Christians will be slaughtered yet again. And I'm telling you, this time they will be on the border of Israel. And this is biblical. This is damn near biblical. We are setting up the end of times war. If we're not smart, this is Gog and Magog. This is Russia and Iran working together, trying to get Israel. This is not going to end well. And losing somebody like Mattis is very bad. Very bad. If you support the president, please, Afghanistan, fine, leave. Not there. Please, Mr. President, not Syria. I want you to enjoy your holiday, but when we come back, we're going to have to roll up our sleeves because trouble is coming. I would pull your money out of the stock market if you are at least my age. They say that inflation isn't happening. It is happening. It just all went into Wall Street. This year, the companies buying back their own stock because they had that big tax break and they could repatriate their dollars. They poured $1 trillion into the stock market, buying back their own stock. That's where inflation is happening. $1 trillion of cash was poured into the system. It went directly to Wall Street. For $1 trillion to be poured into the stock market and for us to be struggling the way we are, there's trouble, because what you're seeing on Wall Street is inflation. Inflation that is out of control. And we'll talk about that and help you prepare for what's coming next. I have assembled a team, and we are going to be very, very serious, unlike we have ever been, ever before, even when we were on Fox, connecting the dots and showing you what's coming and what to avoid and how to prepare. That's all coming next year. Now, coming next is Mr. Bill O'Reilly, and he's going to give us his frank and honest assessment of what has happened this week. And wow, a lot of stuff has happened this week. That's coming up next. This is the Glenn Beck Program.
You're listening to Glenn Beck.